Hey guys, how's it going? D here, and I just wanted to make this video about controllers for consoles, and I wanted to talk about this because I feel like ever since the PS3, PS3 has come out and the Xbox 360, like controllers started to turn to shit. Like the way they are made, they started turning really bad. And I know that people like take care of their stuff and whatnot, which I myself do take care of stuff. I still have controllers that I used for my PS2 from, oh my god, like 6 years ago, and they still work. They're pretty old looking, but they still work. But I mean, it's ridiculous how the PS3 and the Xbox 360's controllers were really weak compared to the PS2 controllers and the original Xbox controllers. Um, I mean, there's some like, it seems like there's some heavy duty like quality in the controllers that were made for those consoles back then. Now, this is all the controllers I have for a bunch of different consoles. I do not have a Nintendo 64, if that is a Nintendo 64 controller. I found that in an abandoned house I went to in the neighborhoods. That is my PS3 controller, my new one, that I've had for a few months now. That is the original PS3 controller my console came with. And the reason I have this is because the little knobs on the PS3 controller move, and this is when you can tell that your controller is already going to die out. Because if this happens, you're going to have annoying movement problems when it comes to games. And the biggest problem I had with this controller for a game is Gran Turismo. This little knob for the steering was off by a tiny bit, but the car would swerve. It would start veering off the track, and it made me livid. It was freaking ridiculous. I got a faded Japan sticker on there. But this is just outrageous. You know, this controller's completely fine. Except it seems like the joysticks are the first things to go out for controllers, and it's really, really just really irritating. So, put that back in there. So let's talk about my new PS3 controller. So this is, of course, has the style of an Xbox 360 controller. It's made by Power A, or A Power. I still have the box for it right here, this one. And the reason I got this was because it was cheap and I liked the way it looked. A lot of people don't like the Xbox controller style. I just got it because it was cheap and I needed a new controller. But this is a third-party controller and it was pretty bad. So my nubs are already wearing out. I've only had this for a few months now. I've had my PS3 for a year, and my original controller for the PS3 didn't even make it a year. It started pooping out. So yeah, I started to notice that the X button started fading. I noticed that 2 months ago. And watch this. Alright. So I'm playing Fallout, and Fallout has very sensitive movements. Third person. Okay. So watch this. I'm barely going to touch my nub down, and my character starts moving backwards. See, I'm barely touching it. Now there we go, all the way down. Now I'm barely touching it. Barely touching it, and my character moves backwards. Now this isn't a big issue, but it's still pretty bad. I'm gonna move around this stick a bit, and nothing seems to happen. It looks like I'm just moving my thumb, but the stick is actually moving a little bit. Doesn't seem to be causing much problems. Everything looks fine. But yeah, this is the only poopy thing about this controller. Yes, I know this is third party and yada yada, and people like third party controllers suck, but come on. Also, too, this was a wired controller, which is why I got it. The wire is actually a little wiggly, which is really bad, so I need to be very careful. And not only does my normal PS3 controller affect Gran Turismo, it affects other games as well. For example, my good friend Tristan came over today, and we were playing some Soul Calibur, and his character kept spamming a move because the little nub decided to keep steering to the one direction and kept making his character do silly spins. So now we're going to look at another third-party controller I have. This is for my Xbox 360. Now, I will say this is the best third-party controller I've ever had in my life. I know I'm not a huge Xbox person. I do play all consoles. I do like PlayStation better for games and certain things. But sometimes PlayStation can have some poopy stuff, and sometimes Xbox can have some poopy stuff, so I don't want to sound like I'm a biased idiot. So, this is from GameStop. It's hard to see, but it says GameStop right there. It's faded. The only thing that actually wore out on this controller is the A button. As you can see, the spring is broken, and it's not all the way up. There's a tiny little chip in the A button, too, which is probably not possible to see, maybe. But it's just down. But the nubs work. They're still in good place. They're not loose like the PlayStation controllers are. Or PlayStation controller nubs. Actually, this one's very loose, but it's not too bad. I actually never had any problems with this controller. This is one of the best controllers I've actually had in my life, and it still functions great. I like it. It's a little smaller than the normal Xbox controller, and it's very, very nice and comfortable. So yeah, the only shitty thing is the wire would get tangled for some reason, and it started getting really bad to the point to where it started tearing itself apart, literally. So I had to tape it in 2 spots. There's the other spot, and yeah, so there's some tears. Moving on to my PS2 controllers. So we're going to look at the most craziest looking PS2 controller I have, because this thing has been through hell, and it still works great. My sister busted one of the 2 buttons off. I think it was the L2 button. I'm not too sure. Anyways, so I decided to take off the other piece. And I actually really like the way it feels. I get a faster response than I would normally with the button. I don't know what it is, but it feels a lot more faster response with those there. And I just like the way it feels. Now, I myself do not like rubber pieces on my controllers. As you can see, my Xbox did not have the little rubber things. But that's because those wore off. With this, these wore off too, so I took them off. And this originally came with my PS2. As you can see, it says DualShock 2, which some PlayStation 2s came with the name on the controller itself. If you look at my other PS2 controller, which I got from some kid a long time ago, it does not say DualShock 2 on it. So I don't know why. But this one is in perfect condition. All the buttons are there. This one I think I did have a little bit of problems with. I don't remember, but I did play with this one a lot. This one's very old. I had this before I moved into this house. I used this before I got my PS2 Slim. And, this one, like I said, came with my PS2 Slim. Okay, I had this when I was in the, old house I lived in, or apartments, whatever you want to call it. This is a very stupid, cheapy, third-party controller. Produced by Disney. It was really a really good controller. It's small. The only problem is the thumbstick is completely broken and this controller is unfunctional. But this stupid controller does look still pretty cool, so that's why I kept it. So yeah, with this, found it in a house. I don't have the console. And now for a very old console that's also third party, which is still in great condition, although it is a little broken. So what's cool about this controller is the nubs on the thumbsticks can be irreversible. So you could literally pop that off. Watch this. As you can see, I popped it off. And it only came with one because I got it from some kid who actually gave me this controller, another really cool looking retro PS2 controller, which I got rid of because the wire was broken and it stopped working, but it was awesome. It looked like something... It actually looked like a Nintendo 64 controller. It was the same colors and it had a weird, awkward design, but it was really cool. This controller doesn't light up anymore. It's supposed to. It has weird functioning modes, which I don't know what they're for. It has very cool, squishy, responsive buttons. Yes, that cord's a little torn up, but this controller still works perfectly fine. And this is a very nice controller. The X button is faded off there. But yeah, guys, so I don't know what the hell it is, but I feel like consoles nowadays have crappy controllers, and old controllers were way damn better. More proof of this, my best friend Michael, he had bought another PS4 controller for his PS4, and the thumbsticks rubber was literally, it looked like it was melted off, because that's how hardcore of a gamer he is. They get worn off. So I feel like controllers nowadays are made so cheaply and poorly that they break easily, so corporations can get more money, and it's ridiculous. So yeah, it's shitty. I really miss the old days when we had cool, simple controllers that didn't break and they were perfect. I mean, my PS2 controllers, they still work perfectly fine. They look like shit, but they work perfect. So guys, thank you so much for watching, and if you see someone who attracts you, go talk to them. Auf Wiedersehen, my friends.